I was a police officer for many years, and I helped investigate and solve many different cases. Often the cases would be fairly standard police work, like breaking and entering cases, thefts, or fraud cases. Sometimes we would get more complicated cases, such as kidnappings or murders. Always these cases would have explanations, and they would rarely go unsolved. There is one case, however, that has always puzzled me. Other police officers think it was a fairly open and shut case, but I think differently. I think there was something more sinister going on. The following is a transcript of a police interview from years ago, before we all had phones and internet. It has always stuck with me, and you will soon know why. I don't really know if I'm allowed to share this, but I'm recently retired, so I'm going to do it anyway. So, here is the transcript of the case that has bothered me for longer than I'd like to admit.
Police interview, commencing at 9:35. Police officer conducting the interview is Detective Paul Watkins. Can you tell me exactly what happened?
I already told you, the adverts made me do it.
What exactly did they make you do?
You know what they made me do. You were one of the first officers on the scene. You saw the damage that I caused.
That is true. Well, can you tell me what you mean by the adverts made me do it?
They made me do it. They spoke to me through the radio. They made it sound so appealing. They made me want to do it. They sold it to me, and it's not the first time they've spoken to me either.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean they have spoken to you before? Can you explain more about that?
You know, the adverts would always play at the right time. I'd hop in my car feeling like eating a burger, and suddenly I would hear the advert for McDonald's on the radio. It would convince me to go and eat a burger. This would happen all the time. Whatever I felt like doing, the adverts on the car radio would convince me to do it.
Couldn't that just be a coincidence, though? Or maybe you only started to feel like something after you heard it being advertised on the radio?
Well, I did think that at first. I thought it was all just a big coincidence, but they started knowing more. They started knowing what I was thinking, what I was feeling. Adverts shouldn't be able to do that, officer. They should only be able to tell you which products to buy. They shouldn't be able to tell you how to think and feel.
What do you mean they knew how you were feeling and what you were thinking?
They shouldn't be able to tell you how to think and feel. The adverts started to tell me what to do in my private life.
Can you give me an example?
Yeah, all right. Well, one day I got into this pretty big fight with my then husband. We argued for about half an hour, and he spent most of the time yelling at me, so I decided I needed to go for a drive. I needed to get out of there, you know, so I hopped into my car, and the radio almost instantly started to play an advert. I'll try my best to recall this as accurately as I can, but I think that the advert said something like, "Having problems at home? Is your husband spending too much time getting angry at you? You deserve better than that, so why not try divorce? Divorce is the new product that is designed to give you a real sense of freedom and to make you feel like yourself again. So what are you waiting for? Try divorce today." I thought I was going crazy at first, but I knew what I was hearing. I wasn't going crazy. This advert was designed just for me, for my exact situation. I ended up divorcing him 3 weeks later after hearing the same advert almost every time I went out for a drive.
Could that not have been in your own head, though? It could have been yourself trying to justify or to accept your own feelings. You might have wanted to divorce your husband, and so you thought your radio was speaking to you, convincing you to do it. That's possible, isn't it?
It was not in my head, all right, officer? I know what I heard, and I don't need you telling me I was going crazy.
I'm sorry. I just need to rule out all possibilities.
Well, I know what I heard, and it was not in my head. It was coming from my radio. Besides, I heard other ads that were designed for me.
Others?
Yeah. Not long after the divorce, I began to feel a bit happier, like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. The advert was right. I did feel better, so that's when I began listening to the ads more and taking their advice on board. The next advert that I heard was one that went something like, "Quit your job today and start afresh. I'm sure you are sick of working the same dead-end job and want to try something new. Well, now you can." So I quit my job the next day and I never felt better. Never managed to find a new job, but I had a bit of savings and managed to get a little bit of money from the divorce settlement, so I was doing okay. Once again, the adverts had convinced me to do something. Once again, I felt better for it.
So you kept listening to these adverts then?
Yeah, well, they seemed to be helping me, didn't they? It was maybe a week or so after I quit my job when I heard the next ad that caught my attention. It went something like this. Do you ever wonder what it is like to take a life? To suddenly cut someone's life short and watch them die? If you have, then we now have just the thing for you. Murder. A fun new trend that you would be crazy not to get involved in. At first I was very confused as to how this advert was allowed to be played on the radio, and I was also confused about how this applied to me. Officer, I had never wanted to murder anybody.
Did this advert play just once?
No, it played all the time. Constantly it was on the radio. Every time I drove, I would turn on the car and straight away an advert advertising murder would come onto the radio. It would often be different though. Sometimes it would say, try it today, murder, it's simple, easy, and can be done right now. And other times it would say, what are you still thinking about? There's nothing else to consider. Murder is just the thing for you. At first I tried to block out the adverts. I tried turning down my radio or tried switching stations, but neither of those ideas worked. I couldn't turn it down and I couldn't change the radio station, no matter how hard I tried. In fact, I felt that the adverts got louder, not quieter. Soon it was unbearable. The adverts were so loud. I just wanted them to stop playing over and over again.
Is that when you finally gave in? When the adverts finally managed to sell you the product?
Mm-hmm. I was driving, and the adverts were blasting in my ears. Couldn't escape the sound of the voice in the advert saying, now is your chance. Now is the time to finally commit murder. Felt that my only option was to listen to the advertisement and to do what it said. I remember stopping the vehicle at the traffic lights, waiting for the pedestrians to cross the street in front of me. And when I heard the advert blast through my car speakers, do it now. Just put your foot on the accelerator, and you can run down and murder everyone right in front of you. The advert was so loud and inescapable. You see, I didn't have a choice, officer, but to do what it said. I had to do it if I wanted the ads to stop.
So, is that your reasoning for running over and killing 4 people?
Yes. Look, I know you don't believe me, but that is the truth. The adverts made me do it.
Police interview suspended at 9:55.
Now I know what you are thinking. It was obviously all in her head. She was imagining the adverts and it was actually a voice in her head telling her what to do. Well, that's what I thought. That's what everyone thought. But that changed when I was investigating inside the suspect's car. I hopped inside the vehicle and that's when I heard it. The sound of static, the sound of a radio that wasn't quite tuned properly. The sound of a radio not quite being able to communicate to me. I thought this was strange because the keys weren't in the ignition, so I didn't think that the radio would be able to work. I didn't think too much of it though, and I moved my hand over to radio to turn it off anyway. That's when I noticed. This car didn't have a radio. There was no radio installed in this vehicle, and according to the car's records, there never was a radio installed in this car. I really don't know how the suspect was able to hear all of the adverts, but I had definitely heard the radio as well. I still don't know what to think about this case, but I think that something rather sinister is going on.